I'm gone, if you guys don't mind, maybe you guys can talk about the ships that are in these Santa containers, like the rare ones. Which ones are the best to grab? You know, like which ones you want to get. Venom, obviously, and talk about the qualities to them and stuff like that. Just that way, people have something to listen to instead of just annoying Christmas music.
Sure.
All right, I'll be back.
So I'm gonna immediately add the caveat of we're only gonna talk about ships that you cannot obtain in the game normally anymore.
Yeah, that's basically all the rare ships that have been removed from the game.
A lot of the rare ones on the list that were just added are actually still available. So, like, we'd start off with Thunderer. And I mean, honestly, I don't think I have to say much about Thunderer. It was removed for a reason. It's been nerfed a few times. It deserved the nerfs. It's still a strong ship.
It's still way too strong for what it is. I think the other one we do have to point out, going a little bit lower tier, if I may, for a second.
Just go down the list in order. Go down the dev blog 251.
Dev blog 251. Let me just open that really quickly.
Also,
literally,
for a reason.
Literally the best destroyer hunter in the game. The moment you get it has stealth radar, it has extremely high DPM, as a heal, good concealment, and just in case it needs to, it also has torpedoes. On top of also having very good anti-aircraft defenses for,
At some point it might get nerfed. People seem to think it's going to.
Let's hope it does.
It took 2.5 years or more for Stalin, so I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Actually, with Block 251 you said?
Yeah. So next, going down the rare list, we come to Smolensk, and I feel like all of these ships don't really need to talk.
They don't need explanations, bro. They don't.
Yeah, SF, that is true as well. Smolensk has... The actual averages on Smolensk aren't very good for what it is. A lot like Daring, it took a really long time for Daring to ever get nerfed at all. So I wouldn't think Smolensk's going to get changed at all, to be honest. I think removing it was just the easier solution.
And it's still there.
Smolensk, it's the fire spammer. Everybody hates it. You see it in the smoke. It shoots you. Yeah.
You just die. Unless you're very good at blind firing, in which case that's literally
you get overpens and you hate it anyway.
Des Moines, anyone? Yeah. Literally the easiest counter to a Smolensk is a Des Moines if you don't get melted before you get to him first.
Yeah. So going down to tier 9s, I mean, Missouri, Georgia, kinda, I would put them in the same boat just because, like, we've got 2 tier 9 USN battleships.
I don't know. I'd consider Georgia, I mean, think of the gimmicks Georgia's
has, right? A better ship. At this point in time, it's got, I mean, if you want gimmicks, it's Georgia. If you want kind of just plain Jane with a radar, it's Missouri.
Yeah, definitely. But we have to go over Georgia's gimmicks, obviously. It has
secondaries, speed boost,
457s. Like, it's literally like, how can Missouri
updated for 2020
and somehow break, like, everybody's better Georgia. It's got better heal, fast cooldown heal. Yes, it's a lower recovery coefficient than the Iowa, but still 40-second cooldown.
I think it's the same percents as the Missouri.
I think it's the same percentage as the Missouri. Iowa was the one that gets the improved heal, as far as I remember, because it's what?
Yeah, Iowa has the actual improved percent. I forget the actual percent off the top of my head, but
yes.
As far as normal battleship heals, Georgia has the same one as Missouri. It just cools down like twice as fast.
SF calling Georgia the Super Star Destroyer.
Hello?
It's fun.
Yes. Jean Bart. This is a ship, I mean, it's basically a Richelieu updated for tier 9 with improved AA, a improved reload, it has more health, and more importantly, it does have that main battery reload booster.
It's got the fun button!
The fun button, hey! We fired, it's like, a cruiser, you fired a cruiser, it's like, I can turn now, press the fun button. Instant regrets.
Yeah, I mean, I would say of the kind of rare ships on the list, Jean Bart is... I'm not going to say any of these ships are bad, because in reality they aren't. Some are. But Jean Bart's... A lot of people diss on it for not being able to overmatch stuff. You can throw a lot of HE down range, you can still position well, yes, you are not as overpowered as some of the other ships, but it's a lot of fun. Like,
it's not fun.
When Jean Bart was the only ship, when it was like the tier 9 to game, if you didn't have a Jean Bart, you wanted a Jean Bart. You got the Jean Bart. That's how it worked.
Yes. Musashi.
Nowadays, it's still fun.
Yeah.
You'll have fun in it.
And then there's Musashi. This is a tier 10 at tier 9. I don't think anything further needs to be said.
It's a Yamato. All right. Next. It doesn't have any AA, but that's
doesn't
kind of
matter
a
when you-
meaningless thing.
It's
anyway.
meaningless when you're in top tier. You literally have twice the health of some tier 7 battleships.
Yeah.
It's freaking hilarious. Nice Threshing is still attainable. We already went over Benham. Friesland.
Friesland is Groningen. They're the same ship. It's got a
Yeah.
different name. You sit in the smoke, you pop your hydro, you shoot at stuff.
It's far.
It gets boring pretty fast.
Alaska. I played 300 battles in this ship for whatever reason. This is a very, even with all the sort of like global balance changes, like battle cruisers now have 60-second fires and IFHE rework and such. Alaska is still really strong because it's first of all it's surprisingly tanky. Like it's very difficult to citadel, for example. It's 27mm bow, which means 380s can't overmatch you. You have a 36mm deck, which means you shatter non-IFHE high explosive and you can bounce battleship shells. The guns hit extremely hard for what it is. And it's got AA, it's decently maneuverable. Concealment's not great, but it does have a radar as a vision control tool. And Alaska is it's very hard to fault as a ship. I mean, if you did have to find faults, it's too big and the shells are too slow for, compared to something like a Kronstadt. But it hits stupidly hard as a battlecruiser, and that's why I think this is, still one of the best ships, or one of the best tier 9s in the game.
What's next?
Did you guys get through the list?
We're still going.
Kronstadt.
Kronstadt.
Oh.
I haven't played Kronstadt, so Toxic, do you have an opinion on it?
It didn't age very well. I still like the ship. A lot of people don't. It is true that you have battleship dispersion. Your guns will not hit what you're aiming at all of the time, but I think that is overplayed to the point that people expect it never to hit any things. I was playing it a lot in the Tier 9 clan battle season. It actually found a lot of use there, particularly because it also has a spotter plane, which a lot of people don't seem to have. It has, I think it's the weird one with the spotter plane and DFAA in the same slot or something.
That's the...
But it's a good ship. I know a lot of people still like it too.
Enterprise. Nothing more needs to be said.
It's not as good as it was with RTS, but it's still very, very good. I actually just got it recently. I hadn't played it since RTS when I played it in a means we're not going to discuss. And it's
I have seen
even now,
RTS.
it's still very, very good.
I've seen RTS Enterprise. That thing looked horrifying to play against.
Click to kill.
I mean, then there was the test graphs album, but we don't talk about that.
Community balance.
Why not? I showed it off.
Yo, if you get a Massachusetts out of a crate, you're gonna be happy. Same with the Lennon. They're good ships. You'll have fun.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Sashio, and this was a bit curious to me because Sashio's over-specialized into killing battleships and just sinking aircraft carriers as a side dish. It's not like a Kagero or Yukikaze where your torpedoes can hit everything in exchange. In exchange, you get these ultra-deep-water torpedoes that are basically, they're battleship killers because they have better stealth, they have much longer range, and they hit just as hard as the Kagero torps. But is that really, justification for removing it?
It averaged far, far, far too much for its tier. And win rate wise, it was much higher than the average. So while yes, it was over specialized, the one thing it was good at doing was something that was kind of very relevant to random battles, even though you put the same player in the same ship, in the different ships, and they play the same way. Asashio was better at killing battleships than other destroyers were. So
absolutely
for the
agree.
skill level of the player, it would return better results.
Yeah, I mean, and given how many battleships you see in randoms, it's sort of justified, I guess. 4 BB, 5 BB matchmaking on a fairly frequent basis. Kutuzov. This is the original smoke spamming cruiser. It's basically a Chapayev, or it's a Sverdlov class, which is an improved Chapayev. that trades radar for smoke, a little more health, and longer range torpedoes. This got removed because of the fact that, it was literally, it's like the OG Smolensk, if you want to put it in a sense, at tier 8.
Yeah, back in the day, also, before IFHE changes and before smoke firing changes, because there have been a lot of changes since.
Definitely.
Kutuzov, you can only see it when you're 2 kilometers from the smoke. That was such a dumb mechanic. I'm so glad it's gone.
Not smoke firing value is like 7.7 something.
Wargaming even considered the nerf they did to it significant enough to actually offer refunds for it.
Yep.
What, the smoke firing nerf?
Yep.
Yep.
They offered refunds for, you could trade in your Belfast or your Kutuzov.
Or your Perth.
Or what? Oh, Perth. I'm surprised Perth is still on sale.
Yes, you could also sell your Perth.
I am, Zath, Toxic, one of the things that really surprises me is that Perth's still on sale, considering just how strong that ship is. I mean, it's basically a Leander that gets high explosive, and Leander has, better reload, not that Leander got nerfed.
I think the reason Perth hasn't been nerfed, other than just kind of generally low playtime, is the fact that nobody has a captain for it, as far as normal players go.
Oh, yeah, because it's Commonwealth, so no 21 bunkers. Right. And the other thing is, the Commonwealth nation isn't, it doesn't have texture yet, so there's no real need for a captain trainer in the sense. So, I think the moment that they release a Commonwealth line, I think they might do something with that. That's just speculation on my part, though.
So, yeah, there was no smoke fire penalty at all. It was just basically as soon as you were within 2 kilometer, boom, assured detection.
Yeah, I've written patch 6.12 like 400 times. I know that's from 6.12.
Toxic, you're just like a walking encyclopedia.
At this point, yeah.
As Toxic, hey, he can just ask, hey, what ship got nerfed 1? He'll just spew it out that.
So,
moving on.
You guys, where are you at now? Z39?
Z39.
Okay.
This is basically a original Z23. This was way back when, before Z23 had its 150mm guns removed. This was essentially a Z23 at tier 7 with 1 less turret, but it retained not only the higher HP pool of the Z23, but it also retained the 5th upgrade slot, which means you can mount Concealment Systems Modification 1, and it also got the 5-kilometer Hydra that the Z23 did. The problem is, it's only 4 150mm guns. It's more of an area denial, sort of very heavy gun ship in that sense.
No, it doesn't have, the firepower is not very good.
Yeah, it's only...
You can just trade with the destroyers. He's got 25,000 HP compared to you could run into a stock Bisbee in your matchmaking range and have 2.5 times the HP of it.
He's just looking, what do I do here?
Well, as Yaka Diego says, the 150s are actually pretty good, and it's nice to use that as a crew trainer for working up the German destroyer line, the new one. So there's that.
Yeah, I guess. Now there's Haida. This was understandable, because Haida is really, really strong for its tier, even with all the tier 9 matchmaking balancing changes, because of a couple factors. One, it has 5.7 kilometer concealment. Why is that important? Because that's literally the best concealment of any destroyer at tier 7. It's better than the Shiratsuyu by 100 meters. It's better than a fully upgraded Z39 by, 400 meters roughly? And it's literally better than every other destroyer. And this is important considering that most other DDs at this tier are 6.3 to 7 kilometer concealment. So you can just sneak up on them and control the engagement with your concealment. And you also have 6 120mm guns, which have fairly high DPM as well. Firing angles aren't the best, but it really doesn't matter when you're already, in that kiting position. Add on to that, you do have a combination of a crawling smoke generator and a modified version of the British Hydro Search, or the short-range Hydro. You lose a bit of torpedo detection range. It goes down from 3 kilometers to 2.5 kilometers, but you get improved ship detection range, where it goes up from 3 kilometers to 3.5. So Haida is, it's very much a a very strong ship. It's still, I mean, I'd argue, if we run into like tier 7 ranked again, definitely something I'd take.
Yeah, Haida's the best you can take at a tier 7, tier locked experience.
I mean, before that, I could say either Haida or Jervis, but Jervis got its concealment nerfed, unfortunately, which is, yeah,
Never that good anyway. Gajimata was always better than Jervis.
Yes, yeah.
Yep. All right, what about Nelson?
It's the original zombie battleship. Wait, when did Nelson come out? It came before the Royal Navy battleships, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was the original zombie battleship.
I don't remember.
Maybe.
Oh.
It was.
We have logs for this.
Yeah.
Check the logs.
Regardless, it's called the zombie battleship because it's got the super heal, which a lot of players think means that they can heal all that stuff back, so they can tank a lot, and the end result is they die.
Yes,
most of the time.
It literally wins against enemy battleships by out-trading them on health, because it's like, oh no, I'm at 10,000 health, push button, instant 40k, and on top of that, it's not like it's a weak battleship in terms of firepower either. You're equipped with 9 406mm guns. You have extremely strong HE isn't even a word. Absurd high explosive. That's the key word there.
Yep.
Because it's the same. I think it's the same high explosive as the Lion, I believe, or it might be a little. I don't remember. Either way, it still has really high pen for high explosive. You can HE Citadel a lot of cruisers within your matchmaking spread. On top of that, you have fairly good armor piercing, and it's 9 guns. And more importantly, they're all mounted in the bow, which means you don't have to turn your ship to expose, all that firepower. Problem is, of course, Nelson does have a very large citadel, and it does have a 25mm bow, which can be overmatched citadels, given how high that citadel rides in the water. In fact, I've blown Nelson's out with, the likes of Knives and Sinop through the nose just because of how weak it is. But that doesn't mean it's a weak ship. It's arguably one of the strongest tier 7 battleships. I'd put it on par with Sinop, honestly, just because of how absurdly tanky it is and how absurdly hard it hits.
Which is interesting because I think it's one of the worst battleships in the game. I just don't like it. But yes, I mean, you can HE spam like crazy. Yes, you can tank a lot of damage, but in my experience, especially if you're bottom tier, but even if you're at tier 7, personally, I'd rather be in a Colorado.
I love shooting at Nelsons.
Nelsons are fun to blow up too.
Yes, exactly.
They're very fun to blow up. Like, I caught a Nelson full broadside with my Iowa. I just 2-turreted him to death. Literally 2 turrets, kaboom.
Yep. And those 16-inch guns, I mean, they overpen so much.
Yeah, it's like you better just stick with the high explosive and be a Conqueror 7. Easy.
Yep.
Flint. Poor thing, honestly. Like, poor thing. First the IFHE rework, and then the commander skill.
If it was 2016 or 17, you got a Flint out of a container, you'd be like, oh my gosh, the best day ever. Nowadays, you're like, can I get a refund?
That thing's been hit so hard. Global nerfs.
We're adding even more insult to injury coming soon, because now we've got a Pan-Asian Flint with a smoke in the tech tree.
Hey,
right?
It has better. Flint is still a very good DD killing machine, and it's still very, very annoying to deal with because it's American smoke, hiding anywhere, it can just pelt you to death. The problem is when you get bottom tiered, you run into Soviet 12 radar. What's your max gun range? 12.4. So, yeah.
Now, I will say this. I played it recently on Soul Stream yesterday, had a lot of fun with it, but doing exactly what you just said, nuking destroyers. This isn't a ship that you're going to go out and you're going to play similarly to a Kutuzov, for example. You just don't have the range to be able to sit and spam at battleships. You use your smoke to disengage, you use your smoke to hide. Only if you don't have an island you can shoot over that can do a better job than your smoke does in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's a situational ship. There are two things I want to highlight with the Flint, though, that a lot of people always disregard. One is it's a tier 7, which means you could take it into Narai, and I think in Narai it's one of the best ships that you can bring in Narai.
Oh, yeah, especially on the transport route.
Yes, so at a 200% first win bonus, the Flint... Yeah, the Flint is one of my go-to ships at 200% first win for Narai for farming free XP and Commander XP. The second thing about it is if you've got 3 clan battle tokens or 3 ranked tokens, then you can unlock a permanent camouflage for the Flint that gives you 100% to regular XP, 100% to Commander XP, and 100% to free XP bonuses. That's a permanent camouflage, guys. You don't lose it. And it's better than 90% of the one-time use camouflages that you could put on the Flint. So if you're the kind of player who's, kind of like daily grinding free XP or Commander XP or whatnot, that's a fantastic camouflage to have for that ship. Is it 10? Okay, thank you.
10.
Sorry, Yakio.
Anyways, now we gotta move on to the Belfast, which is, Jesus, I hate dealing with this thing. Needs no introduction. I hate dealing with this thing.
It is not as good as it used to be, but that doesn't mean it's not still overpowered.
Yeah, it's
so
still...
you guys keep saying that ships need no introduction, and, you don't need to explain this or that, but you guys seem to forget there's, like, almost 200 people watching,
That's
and
true.
I'm sure quite a few are new players.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So we should explain why the Belfast is ridiculously strong. First of all, it's in Edinburgh at tier 7, sorry, not 6, 7. Which means, and it doesn't have the nerfed rate of fire that the Fiji has, 8-second reload, it still has 7.5. And it's regular armor piercing, but you get high explosive instead. So you can, it's basically one of the best fire starters at tier 7. On top of that, you get a actual smoke radar combination without being the Tiger 59, which is to say, it's not bad.
Yeah, so it's very common. You see a destroyer that smokes up, you pop your smoke within radar range, you wait a little bit, pop your radar, and bye-bye destroyer. It's just funny.
Not only
and
that,
it's got hydro in case it gets torpedoed.
What's the downside? And no torps.
No torps, no heal, super squishy.
Super squishy, but who cares when you just burn everything to death anyways. And if I'm not wrong, let me just check what the smoke duration on the Belfast was.
Probably better than Gibraltar's.
Hey, because let's put an Emerald smoke on a tier 10 cruiser. Nothing's gonna go wrong. Quote, everything went wrong. Okay, it's a 103-second smoke. Yes, so it's longer than the Fiji smoke. So it's got a better smoke than the Fiji, it's got better concealments. Oh, did I forget to mention, it also, just like the Z39, it also gets the 5th slot upgrade for concealment system. What's the concealment on this thing? 8.9.
Yep.
And it also has better AA, because this is the post-war 1953 Belfast and not the Belfast 43 we see at tier 8.
So if you're top tier in the Belfast, you just wreck things. Everything.
It's horrifying, honestly. I've seen many a salty thread about this ship. It is both terrifying and amusing at the same time.
Now, I will say this, if you want a different experience than up close and personal, you can also go double rudder on this because of the fact that it's got that tier 8 module slot. And that thing is hilarious with double rudder. If you go hard over one, then go hard over the other way, it looks like you're surfing. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Okay, it's a 4.6-second rudder with a double rudder.
Yes.
Which is absurd.
Yes.
Now, Belfast, one thing to note, though, is that Belfast does have a nerfed radar compared to the tier 8 Edinburgh. Edinburgh can slot a 10-kilometer 30-second radar. The Belfast has a 8.5-kilometer 25-second radar. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really matter, though, when your concealment's 8.9. You only have to cover 400 meters and then bye-bye.
Yep.
You can even take the radar module for a 30-second radar anyways.
Let's talk about the Lowenhart.
Hey, Lowenhart, aka the carrier that can nuke a destroyer with a single pass, because Tier 10 bombs on a Tier 6 carrier is totally fine, even if it's only 2. So the Lowenheart gets the same bombs as the Max Immelman, except it drops them directly above. The bombs are. Let me just check what the parameters on the bombs were very quickly. All right,
If
so
they do hit,
1000s.
yes,
They do hit. They do hit.
Oh my god!
Which they will, because the reticule is a circle. It's so dumb. It's a circular reticule. It's basically Graf Zeppelin, but more accurate than a Graf Zeppelin, because Graf Zeppelin is, Graf Zeppelin. The bombs themselves, HESC 1000, you get 2 bombs in a drop, 12.2k alpha. These are the hardest hitting bombs at Tier 6, 68 millimeters of penetration, and a 69% fire chance. What does that mean? If you run into something like a New York or anything that doesn't have, basically you nuke every single battleship with these bombs within your matchmaking spread, because no battleship has enough or deck armor. Nothing has enough deck armor within your matchmaking spread to actually shatter these bombs, short of you hitting the turrets. So these bombs they're absurd. And nuking DDs is because it's 12.2k alpha, that's roughly 4,000 actual pen damage. So you can't one-shot destroyers, but you can chop off 80% of some DD's health.
And on top of that, you've got AP rockets that are Tier 8 AP rockets at Tier 6.
Yes, they are.
Wait, hang on. Is it the stock Parseval rockets or the others?
I don't remember.
I don't either.
Regardless, they do a lot of damage. They've got very good AP pen. They're very formidable against destroyers, especially because of the way the machine gun rocket mechanics change occurred. So you can get good damage, reliable damage on destroyers, but they absolutely murder cruisers. And I think that Lowenheart is a fantastic carrier, especially in scenarios.
Of course, and the other thing is the hull itself. Lowenheart is absurdly quick. It's 35
it's it's one of the fastest ships at Tier 6. Period.
You outrun every single battleship with matchmaking spread, except not with your matchmaking spread. You're faster than some cruisers, which I find hilarious. And the secondaries too, because you have, it's basically Graf Zeppelin minus 100 amount. So you do have some fairly adequate self-defense measures.
Just don't expect to be playing the torpedo bombers a lot. That's probably the worst part of the ship.
If you're using torpedo bombers in the ship, you've done something.
The torpedoes go 32 knots. Default, which
it's hey,
and they're aiming, and they have a pretty bad aiming distance. So the amount of lead you have to put on these two torpedoes, it's substantial. Funny. It's kind of comical. I'm doing my snowflake in the Lowenheart. I had a chuckle at oh right, I have to lead an extra battleship length. I forgot about that.
Yeah, with how slow those things are.
Yeah, I mean, the rockets are good. The bombs are just... I mean, the bombs kill everything. You just put a circle on them, click, dead.
Yep.
So easy.
It's so easy. Yep. Now then, let's... Graf Spee.
Graf Spee.
Now, there is a reason that this ship was banned for the Tier 6 clan battle season. Not the last one, the one before that. Because of the fact that Graf Spee combines all the good aspects of... It doesn't have a lot of good aspects of cruisers. It is a very big ship. It has... But there is a benefit to that. It has 39.4k HP, which is the largest HP pool of any cruiser at Tier 6. It has a heal. And it's also very... it's also quite durable for a cruiser as well. On top of that, it's 283mm guns, which means you overmatch cruisers within your matchmaking spread, sort of like Pensacola.
Mm-hmm. And it was the first ship that had battle cruiser dispersion. It's 2.0 Sigma or whatever, right? Could have sworn it did at least. But that being said, I never cared for the Graf Spee. Some people love her. she's weird and different and hilarious in operations when you've got maps that have transports and you can go and commerce raid. But that's about it in my opinion.
Yeah. The problem is Spey is too slow. It's the slowest of all the tier 6 cruisers, 28.5 knots.
Yep.
Now, this is a problem when literally every other cruiser does 32 or 33 or goes faster. Like, if you you have to run down stuff like the Jonies and Albas, they're all doing like 35 and you're walking here. And it's like, come back here! And the other thing is,
Penguin Twitch, hello.
Spey also has a problem where it's 45-second fire duration. This is not a problem. This is a problem shared with the high-tier battlecruisers as well. That fire duration means if you get permablazed, you will take a lot of fire damage during the course of battle, especially if you get focused by high explosive spammers. And you can take the damage control module, but the problem is you kind of need propulsion rudder on this ship because it's so sluggish. So it's better to just improve your reaction time on the ship than to mitigate fire damage. So you're stuck with those 45-second fires. The good thing is you do get a heal, but actually there's no but to that. 39.4 HP and a heal at tier 6 is absurd.
Yep.
Like.
All right, well let's go ahead and move on to the last ship then on the list, the TED 61.
Torpedo Boot 61. Why is this thing? Why was this thing removed? First of all, it is the best destroyer hunter at tier 6. Why do we say that?
Yep.
First of all, it does have a sizably large HP pool of 14.7k base when most other destroyers of this tier, save the Ernst Haida and the Karl von Schomburg, 12,000 to 14,000 hit points. This starts at 14.7. So you can get this up to 16.8 HP. The other thing is, its concealment is also good. I believe with a concealment expert commander, you can get this to 6.1 kilometer concealment. Most other destroyers at this tier are much higher. There are some exceptions like Hatsuharu, which is 5.8, and Fubuki, which is, I think after the buff, it's like slightly better, but you outsmart all other destroyers. The other thing is you also have a Hydro, which is you have a 4-kilometer Hydro, and you have very DPM for a destroyer. You have your HE DPM is kind of Your AP DPM is really good. It's more of the fact that most destroyers at this tier have such a low HP pool. You can just bully them with that Hydro, and you also have a smoke, so you get the smoke Hydro combination that allows you to destroyers very effectively. Of course, the real sticking points on this ship are the torpedoes. These are fairly normal German torpedoes. You have standard, 8-kilometer range, 13.7k alpha, they're fairly quick. However, for some reason, they have a 68-second reload instead of the 90-second reload you'd find on something like Haida. What does that mean? You can spec into torpedoes, or just fill the tubes, and you chuck a set of torpedoes every minute. It's it's annoying to deal with. I hate dealing with T-6s, and it's just a very scary ship to deal with, especially if you're in a tier 5 or tier 6 destroyer. Sure, you do have some destroyers like the Farragut, which can outgun a T-61, because Farragut, you have that's really it though at this tier. There are very few destroyers that can actually gun a T-61, unless you want to grab something a Karl von Schomburg, which even there, it's just a premium Haida, which is really?
Yep. So, the big thing about the T-61 is just the torpedo luck chucking abilities, and the Hydro is very handy.
It got removed because it was such a bully to other tier 6 destroyers, and it could even bully some tier 7 and tier 8 destroyers with its concealment.
Yep.
If you run into an Akizuki, and you're just gonna get shredded, but that's kind of this ship's sticking point. You bully tier 5 and tier 6 GDs very well, while also being capable of dropping torpedoes on enemy cruisers and battleships at such a furious pace that you keep them on their toes. You basically keep them zoned out, so you can do your own thing. that's why the T-61 is so absurd.
Yep. So, I mean, you know, a lot of these ships, very powerful, very strong ships. I'm sure a lot of you would be very happy to have most of these in your list there. Hopefully, I mean, I didn't expect us to be talking this long about the ships, but hey, hopefully this was good stuff for you guys. And chat, if there's any questions about any of these specific ships, please feel free to ask. Harley, I saw that you just got your new Shimi and you were a little unhappy with her performance. I would say you have to play her a little bit differently from other destroyers. She's got a super heal, she's got great concealment, and you have to leverage both of those. And luck chuck torps and be happy when you get them. When you get hits with them, I should say. Hey, I'm Captain.
Hi, how's it going?
Yakadiego, why don't I hit destroyers in low and heart? You might be moving around too much, and you might be not allowing the reticule to zone in. The other thing is, I find with those HE dive bombers, watch very carefully how the bombs drop. I believe that they drop kind of very much into a horizontal plane line, like on the, for those of you math people, the x-axis. So be watching those and get in the habit of trying to line up the destroyer on that. Don't look at the whole circle and say, well, it's going to drop somewhere in there. Think more about where it's probably going to drop, and use that as your way to go. Snowmonger says, very informative, helped understand why people play some of these ships. Good. Nice to know, Grey Wolf. Excellent.
There was a sort of like percentage chance for bombs to fall in the center of the reticule, outside of the like the outer part of the reticule. What was the chance on the low?
I don't know if it affected the loan at all.
Yeah, that nerf changed. The
it was like
German
that was the
carrier
AP bombers for like MBR, Rhine, Weisler,
Right.
and Parzival.
Then they buffed them again because it's like, oh no, the bombs aren't.
Yep. They also did that same change to the Choklov's HE bombers. They made it so that they would hit farther out in that circle.
Oh yeah, the dive bombers, right?
All right. Well, cool.
Let's